Before we start, I want to mention that most of this commentary was recorded before the recent discovery of more Spinosaurus material. This commentary is supposed to reflect on what we thought we knew. Oh, we'll be back for more Spinosaurus very soon. In the meantime, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and enjoy the commentary. This is the take where I heard the crack in the spine. I didn't notice how awkward it looked until a little later. No matter how many times I watch, there's always a little something I regret or takes I shouldn't have used. You live and learn, I guess. Looking back, I'm not sure I should have tackled such an ambitious episode so soon. But like I said, if I didn't, people will be constantly asking me about it anyway. The original script was much longer. I still don't know if I made the right choice cutting some of the stuff out. The main issue is that the episode running too long. I can't imagine 15 to 20 minute video of non-stop numbers and stats being fun. Though there are one or two things I should have kept, that would have made things clearer. I cut out a lot of things like different proportions for different animals. I skipped out on C-Rex because I had no numbers. A toe from C-Rex was shown in the Tyrannosaurus cannibalism paper, and it seems to suggest there's some truth to its size, but there are more to C-Rex bones than just a toe. Without knowing the rest of the material, it's still hard to say. That's another drawing from me, and yeah, I'm guilty of shrink-wrapping the skull here as well. I know I pronounced Giganotosaurus as Giganotosaurus. I use Giga because you say gigabyte, not gigabyte. Though the name does mean giant, so Giga is more appropriate. Actually, I think the proper way to pronounce it is Giganotosaurus because of its Spanish origins. Proper pronunciation's the least of my worries, though. You see, when I started Dinosaur News Center, I had every intention of making the show a little on the cynical side. It's not just about repeating what others have said, but also inspire critical thinking. Just because something was published doesn't mean it's 100% right. I want viewers to question the validity of the claims. Paleontologists aren't infallible, and neither am I. I also made this episode just to stir up some trouble. I did a lot of research and looked at everything, and there was still one glaring mistake in this. Sue's real length is actually 12.3 meters, not 12.8. 12.8 was given because they thought the tail was longer, but it turns out it cuts off at around 12.3 meters. We don't have a complete Tyrannosaurus Rex tail, and the amount of bones in individual specimens vary. Sue just happens to have a slightly shorter tail. So even with a 90% complete skeleton, we still make mistakes in its length. How can we be so sure of Giganotosaurus' length when all we have is 30% of the skeleton? Right now, Sue is only 0.1 meters longer, but that's just based on officially published numbers. Giganotosaurus could be longer or shorter than 12.2 meters. The legs, on the other hand, were a bigger deal. I knew it was big, but I think we still underestimated it. Not only are the legs longer when combined, but it's also much thicker. The laser scanning method mentioned in a newer episode could make Sue 1.5 tons heavier or more. My guess is that since Giganotosaurus was discovered in the mid-90s when Sue was still locked away in litigation, it's impossible to get a detailed comparison. The torso is also wider. It's pretty hard to show off visually, and like I said, I didn't know how to use Photoshop. When you see picture comparisons, you always see the side views, but never the width of the animal. I know the title on the video was the largest carnivorous dinosaur, but that was a typo. I actually meant the longest. There's a reason I'm picky with the title. Saying large isn't very specific. Usually large also factors in weight. It's even harder to get an accurate weight estimate, and it's not worth the hassle. If you look at it now, the title in the episode has been fixed. Also, I'm aware that someone made this animated GIF rearranging the MOR-008 skull to look more like the American Museum of Natural History specimen. That makes the skull much smaller, but it doesn't make sense. There are two sides to the skull, left and right. He rearranged the fragmented side, but didn't show you the side that was essentially complete. It's only missing a few pieces, so there's very little guesswork needed. Oh, that maxilla you saw was the actual maxilla of UCMP. When I was digging through Google for maxilla pictures, that was the first one that popped up. I didn't know what it looked like back then. Turns out this maxilla is pretty commonly cast and sold everywhere. I saw a cast in the Bronx Zoo dinosaur ride too, but I forgot to film it or even take a photo of it. Anyway, check out the website Paleo Files for a drawing of the MOR-008 skull. It shows what's there and what's missing. The artwork is by Tracy L. Ford. He's also one of the artists who drew for the dinosaur encyclopedia that I have. As for UCMP, what else is there to say? This is only speculation, but it's speculation with actual data to back it up. It's not undeniable proof either. This is the core message of this episode. People blindly accept incomplete dentry or half a skull as clear evidence. Well, I can play the exact same game, and I can tell you what a T-Rex actually looks like. Giganotosaurus' skull is barely there. The common reconstruction is mostly guesswork. For Spinosaurus, we can't even tell you how the sail is arranged, let alone how long it really is. I didn't have the guts to outright say it, but I really should have. I don't believe in an 18-meter Spinosaurus any more than I believe in a 16-meter Tyrannosaurus. Nor do I believe in a 14-meter Giganotosaurus, Carcharodontosaurus, or what have you. There's actually another UCMP specimen with a huge toe. It's even bigger than C-Rex, but it's just a toe. Is it possible? Yes. But is it definite? No. People always tend to forget that I mentioned this in the video.
There's even the possibility of Junior being a Tyrannosaurus with a disproportionately big head.
I really overdid the volume in my earlier videos. I originally wanted to emphasize this in a more dramatic fashion. It would play the disproportionately big head part and repeat a few times, and each time it would zoom in closer to my face while the sentences slowed down. This is supposed to be the big gag, but the problem was that I couldn't figure out how to do that in Windows Movie Maker, so I left it as it is. I figured there's no way to misinterpret that sentence, but I still think I should have drilled that into people's heads. I am guilty of trolling people in a few forums with it, though they weren't super serious paleontology forums. Just silly forums with people arguing about dinosaur fights. One thing I will never do on Dinosaur News Centers is delve into who would win a fight against who. Anyway, even among paleontologists, not everyone agree on the 18-meter estimate. Not everyone agrees on the 17-meter estimates. Not everyone agree on the 14-meter estimates either. I've seen numbers below 13 meters for fully grown Spinosaurus. We just don't have enough material. Really, anyone can say whatever they want about its length. For example, there was a paper that suggested Spinosaurus was 14 meters, but weighed as much as 20 tons. That paper was criticized because it used Tyrannosaurus body proportions. And as I said earlier, Tyrannosaurs have very wide torsos. Its body shape is nothing like that of Spinosaurus or even Giganotosaurus. That's why I probably shouldn't have cut out talking about body proportions and how they differ from animal to animal. Spinosaurus is the perfect example. Its head is supposed to be long and narrow. It's built that way because megalosaurs all had long skulls. Torvosaurus is another megalosaur and had a proportionately longer skull. In fact, the largest Torvosaurus is known from a huge maxilla similar in size to the UCMP maxilla. Since their heads are known to be long, even if it had a longer skull than T-Rex, the rest of the body still didn't match up because they were built with long skulls and small bodies. Spinosaurus takes that to the extreme. This is directly cut from the old script. Imagine an alternate universe where T-Rex existed, but we have no fossil evidence of it. The de facto giant theropods were Spinosaurus and Giganotosaurus. Then suddenly, one day, someone finds a 13-inch T-Rex tooth. With nothing to go on, all we could do is compare it to the teeth of Spinosaurus. The next thing you know, the news reports the discovery of a brand new 17-meter giant carnivore and its teeth make Spinosaurus look like toothpicks. Since we don't have the skeleton of T-Rex, nobody realizes the animal's only around 12 meters. So I wouldn't be surprised if one day we find more of Spinosaurus and it's still longer. The head alone is longer than any T-Rex known because of how it's shaped. So we might end up with an animal with a head that's a few inches longer than T-Rex, and maybe the tail sticks out a little. It could be, say, 12.7 meters long, but its legs might actually be a little shorter because T-Rex has proportionately longer legs compared to other theropods. It's really anybody's guess. Right now, not a single paleontologist can tell you how long Spinosaurus really is. The reason the higher numbers are used is because they were published. That's it. No one has published anything else because there's nothing to publish. I did the same thing with the top 10 longest carnivores. If you look back at that video, some of those numbers trounce T-Rex and Giganotosaurus. I put them there just because that's some of the guesses for the more incomplete theropods. Still, gigantism can't be completely ruled out. There are some good examples out there. Seismosaurus is now recognized as a giant diplodocus. It's about 20 to 30 feet longer, but it's a little fragmentary. There also exists, yes, a Tyrannosaur, but this is a Daspletosaurus. It's bigger than any Daspletosaur known. The best part is that this Daspletosaurus isn't a single bone or a couple of fragments. This fossil is about 70% complete, so there's very little guesswork needed. It hasn't been officially announced yet, but they're already talking about it. If you're curious, enter Daspletosaurus P3 into Google and look for it. One thing you need to be cautious with this is that P3 might even be a brand new unknown Tyrannosaurine that bridged the gap between Spinosaurus and T-Rex. If it is a Spinosaurus, it is a record breaker. So thank you for joining me for this commentary. I hope this cleared a few things up and got you to think more critically. We're gonna be back with more episodes and more craziness soon.